everybody. We're here with Governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. Initially, the vice president said, after the death of Renee Good at the hands of an ICE agent, said that these ICE agents enjoy absolute immunity from prosecution by Minnesota officials. You were Attorney General of Pennsylvania. Can the state prosecute an ICE agent or a CBP agent who does this sort of thing?
Yes. And what the vice president, who, by the way, I mean, such a sycophant, such a suck-up. He embarrasses himself daily as he seeks the affirmation of Donald Trump. He is wrong when he says they have immunity, whether in Mr. Preddy's case or in Miss Good's case. And by the way, I will just tell you, as a former attorney general, based only on the available evidence that I've seen, that you've seen, I'm not privy to anything else. I think you could make a very strong case for voluntary manslaughter charges to be brought in the Preddy case. And I would also argue you could, at the very least, bring obstruction of justice charges in both cases. These federal agents are obstructing a state investigation. They have messed with a crime scene. They have made clear that they would be withholding evidence. What they are doing is dangerous. They are not above the law. No one is above the law in this country, and no one has absolute immunity. I don't care what kind of BS J.D. Vance spews.
We're clearly at a time of momentous change in this country and in the world. I have lately been thinking about what might be on the other side of this and in what way are we prepared as a country. It seems clear the Republicans are going to stand up to Donald Trump. There are some sort of rumblings, a lot of anonymous behind closed doors, not exactly profiles in courage. And the Democrats aren't winning an enormous amount of points from the American people, even from their own followers. There's a lot of excitement for people like Bernie Sanders or Zohran Mamdani or AOC, and I don't necessarily think it's over their policies, though I don't have a problem with their policies. I think it's because they name reality. Yeah. They have the courage to not speak politically and say, this is what's happening. And I'm curious, as a notable Democrat, who may or may not have other offices in mind in the future, and we'll get to that in a moment, and you'll have an opportunity to say, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, all right. So what do you think the proper response is politically here? Yeah.
Concrete action.
So what is
I'll
it?
explain. Every single day in Pennsylvania, I talk about GSD, get stuff done. I think what the American people are so desperate for are concrete actions, things that will make their lives better. So let's talk about 3 concrete actions this week to deal with Minnesota. Number 1, today in a court of law, Minnesota officials are arguing their 10th Amendment rights should be, should trump, no pun intended. I was not trying to make a joke there. Stop the federal overreach and get them out of their city. That's number 1. Number 2, the Congress of the United States on Friday has the ability to stand up and stop funding ICE and terminate this mission in Minnesota. And Third, it's not just for people with titles next to their name to do this work. I think all of you have powerful voices. We have begun to see not just people in Minnesota, not just people who hold elected office, but outraged, common sense Americans speaking up. You look at what Steve Kerr, the coach of the Golden State Warriors, said yesterday, and others. More and more people speak up. The one thing about this president is he is susceptible to public opinion. Let him know what your opinion is, and your opinion is this has to stop.
As much as they may want to foment violence, an excuse to cite the Insurrection Act, as much as there's a real danger. There's a weird sort of hankering for a civil war by the people who are in support of the actions of ICE and CBP here. We're not in a civil war. Okay, this is Americans being abused by their government. We're not actually at arms with each other yet. But Abraham Lincoln did say at the end of the second inaugural address, he talked about essentially what's going to be on the other side of all of this. How do we then heal as a nation and appeal to the better angels of our nature? I'm just curious as a governor who's given some thought to this. What do you think is on the other side of our present crisis?
You know, I wrote about this in my book.
You mean?
There you go.
Where we keep the light?
There you go. Thank you for that, Stephen. I wrote about this grand experiment in American democracy that started in Philadelphia. And the brilliance of the founders was while they put a lot of words on paper, important words on paper, their brilliance was that they left it incomplete. They left it to succeeding generations to do the hard work to perfect our union. They left it to succeeding generations to do the hard work to include more people in our union. And over time in the American story, we have taken steps forward, and then we've gotten knocked back a step, and then we've continued forward. We're getting knocked back a step right now. But the story of America is ordinary Americans rising up, demanding more, seeking justice, pushing back on excesses, and trying to leave this world a little bit better for their kids and their grandchildren and the next generation. This is a moment, yes, where the Congress of the United States needs to be a check on the president, where governors need to be called upon to protect their citizens. But most importantly, where ordinary Americans need to rise up and do the hard work. No one is going to do it for us. And I know that there are people out there, Stephen, that want to pull up the covers, turn off the news. That doesn't make the darkness go away. We got to seek light. We got to do this work, and it's on us right now.
We have to take another break here, but stick around. More Governor Josh Shapiro when we return, everybody.